A good logo is simple. Complicated logos aren't bad because they're ugly. They're bad because they take too much time to understand. A complicated logo is that guy at the party telling you a story that just won't get to the point. Logos go by different names: icons, symbols, identity marks, word marks. Don't get too caught up in the names because all of them essentially do the same thing. They identify an organization. You don't have to know how to draw well to be a good designer. However, I have noticed that logo designers in particular are often pretty good at drawing. Let's look at some work. This logo does two things and does them well. The R shape references Rosalind, the business owner, and the thread and needle tell us what the business does. Super simple, right? On a more subtle level, there's a nice contrast between the rigid needle and the curvy thread. The dynamic between the two makes it interesting visually. This is a logo for a construction company, and the execution is similar to the one we just saw. It does two things well. The S references the name of the owner, and the nail references construction. Another nice touch is the heavy thickness of the nail. It's sturdy and feels appropriate for a construction company. This logo requires multiple encounters with the brand before it makes sense. It's a cocktail sauce for seafood called Overboard. It combines what it is with a symbol of the company name. Individually, the shrimp and the buoy are two different concepts, and the designer kind of smashes them together here. But he makes it work stylistically. Notice how the shrimp curves nicely into the buoy. My only issue with this logo is if someone saw it independently of the cocktail sauce, it might not make sense. But if the majority of people encounter the logo on the bottle while they're using it, then it's not so bad. Here's an example of a word mark. It was created in the late 70s when Virgin was a small record label. The energy of the writing and the up to the right angle is a good match for the personality of the brand. You may be wondering, when should you design a symbol and when should you design a word mark? If the client is a small startup without a big marketing budget, you might want to consider a word mark. It takes a lot of marketing and advertising dollars to make a symbol like this or this mean something to people. So why doesn't everybody use a word mark? You have a better opportunity to make an emotional imprint on the user if you use a symbol, and people can attach meaning to it. Doesn't this just feel so much bigger than this? Here's another word mark. This is fun. See how the word wrinkle looks wrinkled and the word crease looks crisp? This is a combination mark. It uses both words and icons. Notice how the type is in all caps, which helps with readability. Some other examples of combination marks are Adidas and MasterCard and Taco Bell. A combination mark ensures that people recognize who the company is. Out of everything we've looked at so far, I think this logo communicates the fastest. That's because 75% of this is a dog, so you recognize it right away. And then after the dog is seen, you notice that something is a little bit off, and then the brushes appear. And then right away you see, oh, it's a logo for a groomer. When it clicks, you have an aha moment, as Oprah would say. Here, the thick and thin type is a reference to Ansel Adams' zone system. His zone system was a way of exposing varying amounts of light to different parts of a photo. For people like me who had to research this, the logo works less well. However, if the majority of the audience for the logo are photographers, then it's probably okay. It's almost always a bad practice to distort type, but here it's done to add dimension, so the type actually forms a can. You can imagine if we were looking at the can straight on, the type would look normal. By the way, Saul Bass designed this logo in 1963, and it's still in use by the company today. I think there's a law in graphic design that says any discussion about logos must include the FedEx logo. All of the logos we've seen so far have used imagery to convey their message, but this one does it with negative space. See the arrow there? Once you see it, it's impossible to forget. Conceptually, it works because the arrow is pointing forward, and it maps back to what the company does, which is deliver packages.